Today's show is sponsored by Indie Film Hustle's Filmmaker Process. We provide filmmakers with professional services to get their films or series funded, finished, and distributed. For more information, go to filmmakerprocess.com. Now, what is the biggest mistake you see screenwriters make in writing screenplays? Because you've read a few, so I'm sure you've read a few bad ones. What are these constant mistakes, story-wise, structural-wise, character-wise, that you see that you just like, oh God, I wish they would just stop this?
Yeah, my number one on that list, and I don't really make lists, but this would be my number one, is that they create a protagonist who has nothing to do through the story.
Who's just like an observer or just hanging on.
Inactive protagonist. So, ultimately in drama, and again, this is the way I look at material. This is not the way everybody looks at material. I definitely, when I first started writing and studying, like Aristotle was definitely my guy. Mm-hmm. So, I believe that that you have to give your protagonist something to do. And in a film, it needs to be something that is active and that can be filmed. So when somebody says, yeah, so I have this really exciting story, it's about a character who wants to feel safe in a world where she's lost. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that means.
Because I was watching a movie the other day, and I can't remember it because it was bad. But the main character was just along for the ride. They didn't generate the story. They didn't, because of their actions. Nothing that they did affected the story. The story was going in the direction it was going to go, regardless if they were in it, and they were the protagonist, which was just a weird thing, as opposed to someone that is constantly moving the story forward in one way, shape, or form.
Right. So I will meet writers who will say, well, the character doesn't have a lot to do because this is a character piece. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because in drama, a character is defined by the choices that she makes. Yes, you will create little idiosyncrasies for your character that texturizes the character, but that is not what creates a dramatic character. So in a screenplay, you give a character something to do, something important. Like in Erin Brockovich, right. She spearheads a legal case, right? So she sets out to win a legal case. She's not even a lawyer. And she sets out to win a case for these cancer-stricken people who have been screwed over by some utility company.
Right.
And so that's her goal, right? Her goal is to win this lawsuit. That's her goal. And now, through the movie, she sets out to achieve that goal, scene after scene after scene. And there are choices that she has to make, things that she has to do, and these choices reveal who she is. So, for example, she goes to some place and she needs copies, and so she lifts up her boobs, and she playfully seduces the nerdy clerk. That gives us an inkling of who she is. So the choices that characters make. Let me just give you a very broad example, if I may. So let's say you have your character's walking down the street, and he looks down at the sidewalk and he sees a wallet. Somebody had dropped their wallet, and it's filled with cash. And what your character does with that wallet will help to define who the character is. If the character just leaves the wallet on the ground and walks away, that's one character. If the character takes the money and leaves the wallet behind, that's another character. If he takes the whole wallet, that's somebody else. If he takes half the money and leaves the other half, that's a different character. If he takes the wallet to the police station to return it, that's another character. If the owner of the wallet comes to the police station and offers the character a reward, if the character takes it or doesn't take it, also reveals character. This is what reveals character in movies. It is the choices your character makes. It's not the novelistic details that people get caught up in, like these idiosyncrasies of, well, this character drinks Coca-Cola out of a bottle rather than a can. Look, that's interesting. Like that is a fine piece of texture for a character. Sure. But it's not dramatic. It's not speaking in the language of which you are trying to tell your story.
Right.
So, and of course, you want these choices to be made within a dramatic framework. So Erin Brockovich is making these choices in this framework of her having to win a case, right? Or Hamlet sets out to avenge the murder of his father. That's Hamlet's journey through that 5-act play. Or Sheriff Brody in Jaws has to kill the shark. You must give your character something to do. You must give your character a goal, because that keeps the character active. And it also keeps the audience engaged, because we want to know what will happen. We ask ourselves, gee, will Erin win the case? And we stick around for 2 hours to see if she will. Will Hamlet avenge the death of his father? We stick around through 5 acts to see if he will. Will Sheriff Brody kill the shark? We stick around for 2 hours to see if he will. If you don't ask that question, there's no reason for the audience to stick around.
Right.
And we won't.
And you think that's story 101, but a lot of writers don't get that sometimes.
Not a lot. Most.
Wow.
I'm saying because I do read a lot of amateur scripts. Mm-hmm. I also teach, so I read a lot of student scripts. It's like the COVID-19 of screenwriting is not giving your protagonist something to do. That is the virus. It is the pandemic. And no matter how many times I can say this, it doesn't matter. Like sometimes I'm at these events where people pitch. So they'll come up and they'll pitch. And they'll, spend 2 minutes, and then I'll say, well, I'm not sure. What is it that your character is doing in your story? And they don't have an answer. And I say, okay, look, let me hear a pitch where your character is active, where there is a goal and your character is traveling through the story to reach this goal. Let me hear. And then somebody comes up and does the pitch, and there's no goal. I'm like, okay, I guess you didn't understand me. And so I explain it again. Who has a story where the protagonist is active and has something to do? Every hand goes up. And it doesn't matter. You literally can go one after the other, after the other, after the other. So they seem to understand it, but then it gets lost in translation somewhere. Listen, screenwriting isn't easy. It's the reason why not a lot of people do it. It's really hard. It's really hard work. Also, I think a lot of writers come at writing from a perspective that they're writing. I always say that screenwriters are not really writers. They're really not. Because ultimately, screenplays are constructed. They're built. The writing experience, like you're committing mellifluous prose to the page, is not what screenwriting is about, because nobody will see that. Right. Nobody wants you to describe a sunrise in 1,000 words in a screenplay like you would in a novel. You have to describe that same sunrise in 5 words in a screenplay.
But get the same emotion. And
keep the same, of course. So screenwriting isn't about writing. I mean, look at the word playwriting, right? Like if you actually look at the word playwright, it's WRIGHT. a write, like a shipwright, write, a builder of. So you're building a screenplay. It's all about structure. It's all about how it is constructed, the way one scene is juxtaposed to another, the ebb and flow, the cause and effect, the setup and the payoff. It's all about construction. And so a lot of people come at screenplays as writers rather than builders. And I think it's the builders who are successful, first and foremost. Look, that doesn't mean that you can't, have beautiful writing in your screenplay.
Sure.
But ultimately, that doesn't translate to the audience experience.
No, I mean, you read a Shane Black script or a Tarantino script, and Tarantino's dialogue snaps, and you will hear it. But if you read a Shane Black script, I still love Shane's the descriptions. His descriptions are amazing, but no one will ever see it.
But he's also not trying to be literary.
Right.
He is a storyteller, and he's telling a story as if he were in the room almost.
Yeah.
And he has that very sort of specific where he's winking at the reader all along. And but it's not Faulkner.
No, it's not.
No. Right.
By any stretch. To watch the rest of this interview, head over to bulletproofscreenwriting.tv.